Before I start the show, Grouse Mountain's Y2 Play Seasons Pass, the fastest way from city to slope, is on sale now for a limited time. Y2 Play gets you snowboarding for the rest of this season, plus all of next season too. Grouse's new blue gondola lifts you to their great terrain, including the Rope Tow Park and some of the best steep and treed runs on Vancouver's North Shore. Plus, Grouse pass holders get 2 free lift passes to Revy and more perks. New pass pricing is just $5.39 for full adult passes and as little as $1.49 for a child pass. The time is now to grab your Y2 Play before they sell out. FNRad is presented by FlowJoy Water, which is purified by granite rocks. FlowJoy, a true gift of nature, and Chris Roach. And Essential Toothpaste Tablets, travel-ready, eco-friendly toothpaste your taste buds will enjoy. Wired Snowboards factory in Vancouver builds high-quality custom snowboards for about the same price as other brands' regular boards. I've created several one-of-a-kind wired customs, including a Chase 162 that's seen hundreds of my best powder days. Get yourself a game-changing snowboard and join the Wired team with Devin Walsh, Sasha Daly, and many others. Wired Snowboards. For more information, go to wiredsnowboards.com. Fixed bindings are FNRad. The comfort, performance, and quality of fixed bindings stokes me out every time I snowboard. Their commitment to making bindings that work amazingly and give you no issues puts Fix ahead of other binding brands. It's just that simple. Buy fixed bindings at an authorized dealer or go to fixedbindingco.com. Bluebird Coffee Tuning and Rentals in Squamish is the coolest new stop on your way to Whistler. Bluebird offers quality board tunes using state-of-the-art equipment, premium rentals for every level of rider with demos of Burton step-ons, and award-winning coffee and incredible smoothies. For a blend of expert knowledge, convenience, and lots of charm, stop by Bluebird in Squamish and get your board tuned at the newest mandatory stop on your way to Whistler. Pro Standard makes the grill mount the best mount for your Insta360 GoPro or DJI camera. It's a heat-moldable mouth mount, tripod, hand grip, hook mount, bottle mount, wall mount, clamp mount, glove mount, and shoe mount designed by snowboard legend Ken Ochenbach to get you the perfect angle for snowboarding, surfing, biking, and it'll replace 90% of your other mounts. Use code FNRAD to get 20 off your first order at prostandard.com. Anon snow goggles enhance and protect your vision with unmatched optical clarity. Anon's Magnatech quick lens change technology allows you to swap lenses with ease. All Anon goggles are engineered to deliver no fog days and pair perfectly with Anon helmets and MFI magnetic face masks. Get yourself the best goggles at an authorized Anon dealer near you. Support also comes from our friends at the Boardroom Snowboard Shop. Check out boardroomshop.com and use code FNRAD10 for 10% off regular priced items and FNRAD5 for 5% off sale items. 1910, the collaborative artworks of Jamie Lynn and Scof. FNRAD20 saves you 20% off at 1910.com. New Greens, the superfood green drink sourced from American farms. Use code FNRAD for 20% off at newgreens.com. I want to thank DeKind Snowboard outerwear, travel bags, and backpacks, Rip Curl's Anti-Series outerwear, and our friends at Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, and Cypress Mountain for their support. NIls Mindnich is a professional snowboarder whose recent decision to take a full-time job at Salomon and moving to France has him balancing 2 careers: pro snowboarding and mechanical engineering. Nils started in Vermont as a kid with his brother Hans, and their dad was college roommates with legendary board designer J.G., so the brothers grew up riding prototypes of Burton kids' boards. Nils has crushed multiple genres, halfpipe competitions, filming epic movie parts, then backcountry competitions like the Freeride World Tour and Natural Selection, plus taking first at the legendary bank slalom in pro and the switch race in the same year. Nils is an incredibly talented snowboarder and a super nice dude. I'm stoked to bring you this unique perspective on his snowboarding career from inside his camper in the Baker parking lot.
I mean, I think that's something cool about the snowboarding industry that I think probably applies to any industry, really, is that there's a lot of angles to come in and find out how to be involved and be a part of the community without having to win the contest.
Yeah, reps or designers or artists, all that. You know?
Yeah.
Lots of ways in, for sure. You got into it. Are you older than your brother or younger?
I am 2 years younger, so I'm 30 and he's 32.
So you were like chasing him? Did you guys both get on the Burton kid team?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So our gateway into snowboarding was our mom and dad. I don't have kids at this moment, but even looking and considering kids, I can only imagine how hard it is to get like a 3-year-old into a pair of snowboard boots and up to the hill.
It can be the worst.
So I was like,
it can actually be the worst.
For a big shout out to all parents and my parents for fucking putting up with that, because it's way harder than going to the beach or like soccer practice.
100%.
And my dad was college roommates with JG, who was a pretty formative shaper for Burton Snowboards.
Such an important part of snowboarding history. Yeah, JG is the best.
And then JG started hooking my brother and I up with snowboards. We moved from New Jersey to Vermont. My dad reconnected with JG, and we, at a very early age, probably 5 and 7, started getting these, chopper prototypes from JG just to see how the kids boards rode.
So sick.
Kind of just took off from there. We were in the Burton bubble of Stowe, Vermont, and started doing a bunch of USASA contests, and kind of were in with the right crowd, and it was a pretty natural evolution for Hans and I to get put on the Burton team, and then to sort of start building a life around snowboarding from there.
Did you guys, get similar results? Like, was Hans kicking ass, you're kicking ass?
Yeah, and at the time, we were competing in different age groups.
Yeah.
So at a very early age, we excelled at both age groups. This is maybe 7 to 10, and then around 12, 13, we started kind of getting into the mix of like Grand Prix and Dew Tours and stuff like that. We never did X Games, but a lot of US Opens.
Was that a conscious choice?
No X Games?
Did you have like coaches and stuff?
We kind of had coaches, It would be like some coaching here. We never went full on with a coach, kind of just for the sake of resources, It's kind of, I don't think everybody can afford like full-time coaching, and sort of the amount of resources it takes at that time was something you would see in a more traditional sport, and not every family's built out to support that kind of money that it requires.
So how did you guys get that good?
We were able to snowboard a bunch, and we were still like spent some very formative years with really good influential coaches, and there was a really good influential crowd. So there was kind of, the first 4 years of our snowboarding were shaped by people like JG. Bud Keane was our coach. We were looking up to Jake Blauvelt, Travis Kennedy, Pat Moore. Like, that was kind of the generation ahead of us. So there was a bunch of legit references to kind of know, like, okay, this is where the level's at. And just knowing that, and you get kind of the fundamentals at an early age, and then you can take it pretty far from there.
Yeah. Who was driving the philosophy? Like, your brother or you? Like, were you just following kind of what he did, or were you?
From my memory at an early age, I felt like I was following Hans.
Sure.
He was always just like, at that early age, like 13 and under, 2 years difference is pretty big.
Huge.
So, I felt like I was always trying to keep up, and he was always like a season or two ahead of where my riding was at. And it was very much so like he was, I would say, a bit more accelerant. He just kind of picked it up a little bit faster. And then, there's like, those are such small nuances over the course of the 20 years. So, but at the time, I would say it felt like I was following him. And then at a pretty early age, by 14 years old, 15 years old, we were kind of neck and neck, similar results, similar skill set. Really different approaches to riding, which is interesting. And then, but our like ethos and maybe like what trick selection and stuff like that, and what we were interested in, and the stuff we wanted to ride was all has all always kind of been the same. It's cool.
Who else is in the crew? Like, because obviously it could be just the two of you, but
yeah, I mean, at that early age, it was myself, Hans, the other younger rider that was kind of part of the Burton kids team was this guy Tommy Manuelson, who was really good snowboarder, and then we kind of got thrown on a couple like summer trips with the Burton kids team. And the generation ahead of us was like Mikkel Bang, Luke Matrani, Frederick Osbo, and seeing those guys when they were 15 as maybe a 10-year-old gave me like a bit of like a quick, very early global reference of how good the next generation was.
Did it scare you? Were you like, oh,
it was tough,
man,
actually? Yeah, I remember the first time I went to Mount Hood. I was probably 10 years old, won every USASA contest I ever did. And there was this kid, Ben Watts, that was my age, and I thought I was like a good skateboarder, best skateboarder I'd ever known, coming from a small town as a 10-year-old kid.
Totally.
And this other kid, Ben Watts, was like, I was able to drop it on the vert ramp at Wendell's, and I was like, nice, yeah, like I'm pretty good. And then Ben was also 10 years old and doing like frontside, backside airs, doing 540s, and like incredibly talented. I mean, that character, that's like a deep cut maybe for anyone listening, is Ben Watts is like, I think he got burnt out and pulled out of snowboarding at a really early age. But he was on track to be, that Shaun White character of our generation.
Yeah.
Which was really cool to see that caliber of an athlete.
How big of an influence was Shaun on you guys growing up? Was it just like pinnacle dude? Like
Shaun was always a pretty unattainable character, and I would say growing up I was always drawn to the first person that comes to mind is like Andy Finch.
Oh wow.
Was like who I thought was really cool.
That's super sick.
And then
I love it.
When I started, it was just Finch Airlines, like homie Boosted. And that's like, as a kid, that's what I was like. I just liked going big in the half pipe.
Bulldog. The dude was like, you could count on him to go humongous.
Yeah. And then towards my middle and end of my contest career, I competed until I was, quote unquote contest career. I competed in half pipe until I was 17. And during that time period, it was like Kazu was my favorite rider.
Oof, the best.
And he's who stood out to me the most as like, oh, I want to look like Kazu. There was something about how you can see it in more riders now, but when he landed, he just stayed on that edge. There's never an adjustment. He would do a front nine and stay on that exact edge. The trajectory wouldn't change. Nothing would change until he snapped and did his like next trick. And I was like, that is what half pipe riding should look like. That's what I
remember the 2010 Olympics, and I'm not a contest guy. I'm not a half pipe guy either, really. Like I'm like like an enthusiast that goes.
Yeah.
So like watching contests is boring. It's like not going. But I remember it was Vancouver, my hometown, so people actually went to the finals to watch it live, and we had like a watch party. And I remember saying to people like, Kazu should have won. Like, I wish that's where snowboarding was. I was just being like a snowboard snob guy that's like, Kazu's the best, like his style's the best. But there is something about the pressure of competition and competitive evolution of tricks and stuff that, right at the cutting edge, it doesn't really look that great. Even though, like a double McTwist, okay, that's insane. It was insane, but it didn't look that great. I'd rather be the Kazu guy than the guy who's pressured to do another flip. But whatever. Now when I look back, I'm like, Shaun's run was like flawless. It was insane.
And I think during that time, Kazu won the U.S. Open either that year. It was between like 2009 and 2012. I think he won the U.S. Open halfpipe twice, at least once. So it was cool to see. Like kind of him at that caliber.
Yeah.
And then also his evolution into the backcountry. And at that time, I, around 17, been trying to haphazardly find my way through the contest scene. And hindsight's 2020. I could have used like a mentor and a coach, and I think it would have panned out differently.
Airbags and stuff, like where did you get to trick-wise?
Just before airbags.
Yeah.
So I was like, kind of working on, even then I was kind of like interested in switch riding, and I saw that sort of as my like outlet. So I was doing like cab nines and trying to work on these like back threes and like switch front side alley-oop 7 or something like that. Random things like that. And then I was doing, I would like, I don't think in a contest I ever did back-to-back 10s, but like practicing, that's kind of where I was at. It was like front 10, cab 10, front 9, back 9 kind of deal. And
wild.
It was like double corks had just entered the picture, and then that's right when I phased out, and then
was there any part of it that was that like where you're like, no, that I'm not going, or was it just like
no, it was a pure resource situation actually. Is that I was riding for Burton and Red Bull at the time.
Yep.
And I was a junior in high school, and then Seb Toots and Mark McMorris and other riders like that were kind of my similar age and podiuming at X Games, and I wasn't making it into finals. So I got dropped by all my sponsors going into my senior year of high school, and then kind of didn't really have any money or any pull to get into Grand Prix for points or rider spots through Burton to get into the US Open, for example. So I just didn't have the money or the resources to compete, and essentially spent that next season just filming with homies and at like in the park in Park City.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that sort of created the transition. Is that it was around the time when like the online edit was taking off, that like 2010 to 2013 era.
Yeah.
Right before Instagram, but like people like Yo Beat was a thing, right? And like,
nice one.
There's like all these like edits going up. So
yeah,
my friends and I had a group called Lick the Cat in Salt Lake City. And,
I remember Lick the Cat.
And we were just like a bunch of young rowdy kids that like partying and
that's
road park.
That's epic.
Yeah. And there was also Super Park. So there was the edits, and then I had my brother and I we were in the same boat. We both got cut by our sponsors, and we were able to start going to the launch and Super Park, and Pat Bridges, was the facilitator of like our careers kind of getting to that next level, giving us the opportunity to show up at these park events. And
that's sick.
Giving us the platform to kind of showcase our riding.
What's it like to be a Red Bull sponsored athlete when you're in like grade 10 or whatever? Like it doesn't even seem like it makes sense.
It's weird looking back. It was kind of awkward, honestly. I felt pretty uncomfortable wearing a helmet and like being at a ski resort and like everybody looks at you and like,
I just mean your life in class. Like everybody else is just
in school,
like a
and it's like
16-year-old or a 15-year-old or whatever.
I don't know. It was different. It's kind of weird. It's maybe more responsibility than I would like my kid to have if I have one.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Because I was like financially independent, career independent, and like at the time I was the youngest signed Red Bull athlete.
Holy shit.
When it went down.
How old were you when, like 14, 15?
No, I was, I think when they were like drafting the deal, I was 12 and I had signed when I was 13.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're not even allowed to drink energy drinks when you're 12, are you? I wouldn't let my 12-year-old drink a Red Bull.
It was only for 3 years. I had a very quick run with it.
Yeah. But it
was an interesting kind of weird
The level
situation.
of support is insane, right? Like when you
it was a lot of resources, and it was a lot of, I think it was like all the expectations and kind of expectations of like a full-on professional athlete, and I just everything except a coach or like a mentor, and I just didn't understand the level of professionalism that I needed to display at that age in order to show my motivation. And also I didn't have anyone kind of help. Neither of us had someone helping us. In reference, it didn't feel like there was anyone like helping us put together a contest run and make sure we went to the right training camps and all that. So
This
it was
is
a little haphazard.
Thanks for sharing this. This is really personal.
Yeah.
Like that's like a big deal to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you know, you want to talk about snowboarding, and I've been snowboarding has been my entire life. So we have to talk about my whole life.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it because I always equate like Red Bull sponsored athletes in snowboarding with, you know, a great rehab facility, right? So if you get hurt, you go to the Red Bull rehab.
It was at the forefront of that. So like there would be a performance camp once or twice a year, but like, you know, being a 14-year-old kid, I kind of just like looking back, I was like, I just needed like a little more hand holding.
Yeah.
Than like the resources they had set up were incredible and would be fully utilized by a 30-year-old me right now.
Yes.
To the fullest extent that it would totally bring my riding to another level. However, at the time I was really good at snowboarding, but I was still a 14-year-old kid.
You're just too young for the program.
Just kind of like to understand.
If they have a 14-year-old kid in there now, they probably have the hand-holding situation, right? Like a coach.
I guess there's maybe more of that, or maybe more like, you know,
parental mentoring or something like, hey, this is what your kid
and in
needs to
hindsight,
do.
that's just how it felt. Maybe in the moment, it was super hand-holding. I don't know, you know?
I got you.
Right.
Yeah. So when you basically have a reset with the sponsor stuff.
Yeah.
And does this happen twice? Like, does that also happen when you go into the backcountry stuff from filming? Or
no. So how it went down, I guess, to fast track it is that there was, in 2012, Hans and I were kind of like more standout characters at Super Park and Launch for a few years in a row. We were kind of like part of the mix.
Sick. You get like a cover or something? Do you get?
Yeah. So I got a couple covers. Hans got a couple covers through Super Park and Launch and stuff like that.
Right.
And those were kind of like the, you know, stoke a little fire for the hype around us to
the negotiating tools.
Yeah, to like find some support. And it was really fortunate we got the first sponsor we got after getting cut from Burton was getting the opportunity to ride for Salomon. And even at that age, 17, you know, I was like trying to think like, okay, what brand can I get boards from? Like, oh, so-and-so offered me boards. But I'm like, no, I was like, kind of had a little bit of an ego like, I guess some confidence to be like, no, I want to ride for a legit snowboard company.
Yeah.
And the opportunity with Salomon came up and I was just like, hell yeah, like this is legit. Salomon's dope. It was just right around team vacation, so they had Jed, Lewis, Bodie, Volley, Dirksen, like that kind of like A-list team and like a legit team, legit athletes. And I was just like, yeah, that's like, I want to be in that mix. The product's sick. The brand seems psyched on us. And yeah, I mean, that's been my longest standing sponsor now for both of us. Yeah, so it'll be 13 years this year.
Wow, congrats.
Thanks.
Do they instantly like throw you in the mix with those guys, or are you kind of
we both got like put onto team trips and given resources to join film crews and stuff like that. Snowboarder made a movie called Forward, which was a AM snowboard movie. So that was like our first debut into filming and filming backcountry. And, you know, Salomon supported us and made sure that we were able to go on the trips and have a spot. So it was rad.
Who are your mentors on those trips? Like
Trent Ludwig and Mark Carter.
Sick.
We're the mentors. Mark Carter was showing us around Jackson.
Oh, wow.
And, total legend, extreme boss, like big shout out to Mark. And then Trent Ludwig was the filmer for the project. And I think he had a reputation for being kind of serious and maybe a hard ass. And at the time, being a bunch of 18-year-old kids, were like, man, Trent's being a dick. And then, but looking back at it, I'm like, that's the exact right man for the job. And some of the, like, how we build jumps and the spots we hit and how we planned filming, like, I would have numerous seasons that I would operate looser than how dialed we were the first year when Trent was showing us how to go about it. So
interesting.
He was, it was good.
Yeah. I don't know much about the behind the scenes of the movie making stuff, but it definitely, like I just took it all for granted. You get the movie and you'd watch it, 20 minutes long, you go, awesome. Now, knowing that was every single person in the movie was working on it for a year or two or whatever. It was like their whole life.
Yeah.
Taking it serious seems to be like, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. And I didn't take it as serious as I think I could have or should have. You know, again, I just always kind of managing, like, I sort of had, you have the rug pulled out from under you with your sponsors as a teenager, and I'm like, I was never 2 feet back in the door, so to speak. So I was still filming video parts, but I was always like, there was always some things I just like didn't completely identify as like a core snowboarder, you know, and I was just like, would spend my whole off season rock climbing, or I went to engineering school for 7 years, and like super good friends. I mean, a lot of good friends in the core snowboarding community, but it was like looking back on it, and things have worked out great, But looking back on it, it was again like a second chance at snowboarding, and there's things I for sure would have done differently had I been in that position again now. But I guess you're whatever, like hindsight is literally always 2020 is what I'm getting at here.
You're 30 years old looking back at your career going, oh, I guess I could have taken it a little more seriously at this point. But also giving yourself a break. Like, dude, losing your major sponsors at a time in your life where, like, it's
influential time. 17. 17 is a pretty like impactful time.
And a crossroads time for everyone. Like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I have to figure out the rest of my life this year. It's so weird when you're like graduating high school and it's that looming thing of like, okay, well, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, totally.
I'm going to take a gap year, or what am I going to do? Right. And you've already been financially independent. You've had responsibilities. A lot of like
responsibility and pressure. Yeah. It is different for sure. It's different. Yeah, but, in the moment, you don't totally realize.
Yeah, was there a part of you that wanted to just quit at some point and just go like, wow, I'm just going to be a regular dude now?
Almost every year. Yeah, a lot of years. I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I didn't have any exit options, especially while I was in school. And then, I think a lot of it was maybe, I don't know. I don't really know what would lead me to feeling like I didn't want to be a part of it. I think it was maybe a mix of things, like a mix of just natural jealousy of other riders that seem to be accelerating, right? Like things happen quickly for some people versus others. And even though I was 20, there'd be other riders that seemed like their careers would take off with bigger sponsors or more budget or something like that, whatever. And like, so there was that. And then, I'm not entirely sure why I was always burnt out on it in that time phase. I'd also just like, even by the time I was 23, snowboarding had been by the time I was 23, it had already been 13 years of technically being a career snowboarder, and like,
oh my God,
the pressure every year to kind of feel like I was still building up to something,
progressing, right,
and still working towards doing it, I think just kind of like wore on me in ways that it seemed like it didn't wear down on other people. I was a little more hung up on like long-term results, and I wasn't entirely sure. It was just like tough to keep the motivation going. Yeah. And like I had a completely newfound passion with rock climbing, which, I would hear people talking about getting into snowboarding. And in my late teens, early 20s, I was like, that is not what snowboarding is like for me. And that's exactly what rock climbing sounds like for me.
Something fun.
It was like fun and passionate. You like the people, you like the culture, all these things. And I was just like, and I would like question myself. I'm like, I'm so good at snowboarding. Like, I know I'm good. It was like, why am I not liking this that much?
Because you're not riding for yourself. I think that's pretty
just
obvious.
a lot of pressure
like,
I just wasn't used to it. Just wasn't used to the pressure, and I didn't have the confidence to understand that the brands I was with did support me, and then even if something would happen with the brands I was with not supporting me, I would still be okay. You know, it's like any job. It's like you work in any job long enough, and you're like, oh my God, I might get laid off, and then actually you're like, oh, I got laid off, but there's more jobs. Like, it's gonna be fine. You know, it's like I just gotta keep working.
You can have a job for the rest of your life if you want to work.
Yeah, it's like if you want to work, it's there. So
yeah.
I don't know. It was an interesting time. I actually, I wish it was like rock and roll and partying and awesome the whole time, but it was actually like kind of a turbulent. But honestly, it's like what fucking teenager and early 20-year-old is actually like truly blissfully happy and bubbly, and like it's a turbulent time. I just think for an adult, you know, in the world, like it's just hard.
Yeah.
Finding your way, because I'm snowboarding the whole time, but okay, I'm a pro snowboarder from 11 until now 30, but and that stays the same. But a human being from the age of 11 to 30 changes quite a lot.
Yeah.
And like, typically you don't have something as powerful as a snowboarding career to like reference the whole time.
No,
you know,
no.
Like typically there's just more distinct cycles that you go through.
Yeah, so
definitely. I think there was just kind of like a butting of heads of the evolution of an adult, a boy turning into an adult, with the kind of the consistency of the one sport.
That makes total sense, dude. It's fascinating that you drove your career too, right? Like you chose to stop competing in one discipline.
Yep.
And like at the time that and then you filmed for a bit before.
Probably 7 years.
7 years.
6 or 7 years.
Yeah, that's a successful film career.
Yeah.
Which, competitive guys are jealous of. Right?
Yeah.
I remember I only had 15 minutes with Red, but Red was like, I'm like, Hal was winning the Olympics. Awesome, right? He's like, not really. I didn't really want to compete that year. And my parents said, well, it's an Olympic year. Could you just do one more year of competition? I'm like, and then you won the Olympics? Like, he's like, dude, the Olympics is just like another one of those contests when you're constantly going to contests, right? Like, it's not like, oh boy, it's the Olympics. It's more like, oh, another contest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want to go free ride with my friends, or I just want to, because he was a kid. He was in that transition period at that time, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I was like, what the hell? This generation of pro snowboard is just not at all what it was like when we were like 17, 18.
Yeah, and I think it's a little different for everyone, and I think of guys like that I would say I'm part of a similar generation of, and there's kind of like the Vans crew. You have like Blake Paul and Sam Taxwood, and then also like a lot of these savage filmers, and like those are guys that I've really looked up to, and I've also just admired their ability to be like, I've admired their just, I don't know, it seems like a sense of belonging in snowboarding, where I'm like, fuck yeah, you guys are like, you're pro snowboarders, you're pro snowboarders, and that's like where you're at, and like it shows, and everything that you put out is fucking incredible, and like it's cool to see, right? And like there is that level of passion, and then you also see on the competitive level, the professional athlete, so to speak, which I think eventually is what pro snowboarders turned into for contests, is professional athletes. It wasn't always that case, maybe.
Oh, absolutely, it wasn't. Not at the beginning, not even close.
And then you have maybe someone that had that approach who was ahead of their time, and I would say got a bad rap, which is Shaun White.
Yeah.
And then almost the second iteration of a Shaun White right now, I would discuss as Scotty James. And I kind of think it's sick. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm into like athletics and sport mindsets and performance, and like I like F1. You know, I like racing. Like I like sports.
Yeah.
You know, and I can like at this point I can appreciate the work it takes. And I'm like,
of course,
Scotty James is like an incredible professional athlete.
Yeah,
and he's so good at his job, and that is sick.
I think there's like if you're in a scene, and if you know, I'm kind of making this up, but like. I noticed a scene in Whistler. I noticed a scene in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake is a huge scene. Probably the number one scene for like setting the
flavor.
Temperature for professional snowboarding.
Yep.
If you grew up in Salt Lake City, or if you did a bunch of years in Salt Lake City, then you're going to have a different opinion about Shaun White than just the general public.
Yeah.
Like I think the general public loved him the whole way through.
Yeah.
Right. And as professional snowboarders and people in the industry, in the scene, I think there was a time where it was like, we could still love him when he was a flying tomato, you know, like and now he's skating vert with Tony Hawk, like, and he's doing so well at cross disciplines. And it's like, there's some respect there, but then at some point the level of competition got so high that he had to become, like you say, like the very first future pro snowboarder.
Yeah. Like
coaches, private pipes, like things that just didn't jive with the old guard, which was like, dude, the first Olympics, I bet you could find 10 athletes that competed that were smoking casually or when they drink and drinking all the time.
Yeah.
Like that didn't have coaches, that just sent themselves there through sheer willpower.
Yeah.
I remember looking at it going, dude, the other people in the Olympics trained their whole life to be there.
Yeah.
And then the snowboarders are there and they're partying.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But eventually everything gets to a level where the incentives are so high.
Yeah.
You have to, Yeah. There's a financial component that's completely necessary. You're not going to see someone at the Olympics that was just like, you know, happen
Joe Schmo
to live near a half pipe.
Yeah,
and
not at this point.
When he was 30, he was like, "Oh, actually, I'm naturally talented at this."
Yeah.
No, the kid's gonna grow up with airbags.
Yeah.
It was so sick to hear Mikkel saying, "Like, I made a decision. I'm not gonna hit airbags."
Yeah.
He learned doubles with no airbag.
Yeah.
Like rad.
Yeah.
I don't think you're learning quad corks without an airbag.
Yeah, I'm not sure you are.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't think.
I'm not sure you are.
Yeah. It seems like. And it's not like a trick that you're putting down when you're going riding with your family. Like, oh, hey, there's a super pipe here. You want to like show
a triple
off?
Cork?
No, that's like your coach doesn't even let you. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of that is, you know, kind of too bad and you lose some soul of the passion of the sport. And then another part of it is like, well, that's the inevitable maturity that comes with professional athletes and professional sports, and like that's
for that. Yeah.
Whether the culture of snowboarding realized it or not, the reality is that it is a sport in which people want to push and progress.
Yeah.
And eventually, for progression to take place, you got to enter coaches and airbags, and like the drinking's got to get pushed to the side because history shows that's what works.
Yeah.
And like, even the previous generation might not have realized it, but it was like, you guys are still, the culture of the sport is to push and progress.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone always valued the most at the end of the day. And it just eventually, over time, as it matured, got to that point.
Yeah. Okay, let's pause here.
Yeah.
And we'll come back.
Yeah.
I think,
in case there's a quick chance that we can't come back, do we want to do like a brief sign off of like a part one or maybe just like a little context in case for some reason? Okay.
No problem. Yeah. So like we're going, I mean, we could just be honest about it. We're going.
Yeah. So right now we're in my, right now we're in my 4-wheel truck camper, nice little pop top in the Mount Baker parking lot. And we hope you've enjoyed hearing a little bit about my early life. And there's a small percentage, that's all you will hear.
Yeah.
And right now we got to go to the awards of the 36th annual Baker Bank Slalom, and hopefully in about 2 hours we'll be able to finish this interview.
Yep.
A lot of build up. I've won it before.
First place.
I got first. I won the switch race and the regular race in 2017.
In 1 year you got both?
Did both, yeah. So it's tough. That's where the level's at. That's where the bar's set now, unfortunately.
So getting a blanket is not like, hooray, best day of my life. It's...
No, very grateful. Super grateful. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I got 5th place.
That was wild.
That was cool. No, I got I won it regular and switch in 2017, and that was like a crazy. It was only like the 4th time I'd raced. I was like 22 or 3. It was cool.
That's
I don't
really
think I'll
amazing.
ever. I don't think even if I did win it switch and regular again.
Yeah.
I don't think it would top the moment.
How could it? How could it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So some competitors, I guess I'm thinking Maëlle Ricker, like she won the Olympics and the LBS in the same year, and she's like, the LBS is more important to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. LBS kind of had, and especially at the time in 2017, it had this like extra legendary lore to it. I hadn't done it that much. I was kind of just starting to do some bank slaloms. I was just starting to film video parts. I was like figuring out like the who's who and the culture of more core snowboarding after competition. And Baker still like holds that status of a very authentic event for snowboarding.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. But when they gave Duncan that award, and Duncan's 80, by the way, like, dude, 80-year-old man doing that.
It's incredible.
It's nuts, right?
Yeah.
But Baker holds a special place in the community.
Yeah.
It's kind of the beating heart of like the actual core guys.
Yeah.
And so that's a good transition point. Like you go from competition to what makes you want to go. Okay, competition, filming, and then backcountry stuff. What were your film parts like? Were they like
backcountry filming? Yeah. I was kind of doing like, I guess what a bunch of people do, right? Backcountry jumps, some time up in Whistler with Mikey Rentz. That was a really cool year.
Sick.
And then kind of more natural Jake Blauvelt inspired type stuff. That was like a really big point of inspiration for my riding. And, in recent years, I haven't really hit big jumps as consistently. It's been a lot more like, Arthur Longo is like a huge inspiration and kind of how he approaches riding. And especially if, I'm not working on like a big film production, I don't need to go out and like find pristine conditions. I can just like rip around the resort with my homies and do side hits and kind of push myself that way.
When the projects became kind of sponsored projects by films made by certain companies with their guys in it versus having to, you had to pay to get into MacDog stuff, but also you had to show up. Lots of guys got their sponsors to pay and then filmed and didn't make the cut.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. I was like just past that. I would say like when I got into filming, I would still need the like sponsor buy-in and then but you're guaranteed a part. They weren't cutting like entire riders at that point when I got in. Yeah,
so my theory is that MacDog was the last of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because he was ruthless, like the stuff he cut, I'd love to see him make movies of the shit he cut. That'd be rad. But so the pressure to do that, to build bigger jumps and stuff. We talk about it a lot because in Whistler, you look at like Trick of the Year, Miskimon front threes, Mother or something, right? Well, people back nined that.
Yeah.
And
almost 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Probably in that range,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the old guys are looking going, oh, it looks way easier now. Well, also, you guys don't get paid as much, right? Like, so you've got...
Yeah, there's a pay discrepancy. I would say I'm curious if conditions are more fickle to have line up. And then I also think there's a change in focus. I would argue that in the peak Absinthe era, peak MacDog era, and this was my first few seasons riding, is that Jan 1, you're looking for stuff to hit. And you are strictly focused on filming your video part for 4 months straight. And that is what you do. And you stay where there is snow, and you build jumps, and you film. You know? And it's like, MacDog era, right? Like, you build on that year after year after year, and you get super efficient at that model. Yeah. And then I think where our generation is I think just coming through the growing pains is figuring out, well, how many jumps do we need to hit? Like, be a little more tactful. Like, okay, what jumps are good? Where is the snow good now? And there's just less time. Like, I would say, being like a pro snowboarder, there's a brand trip or two you do. There's a few events you do. There's like all the social media obligations to make sure that you're still getting like social media stuff, which is, say what you want about it, it's just a part of the job, right?
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's just kind of a change in focus. I'm curious if everyone as pro snowboarders was focusing on filming big jumps. Yeah, you'd probably be seeing some like crazier stuff.
I guess.
But like, you know, I think it just depends. Oh,
thanks. Hey, thank you so much.
You probably got all the information from him. That's the old-fashioned way.
I like the old-fashioned way. That works. That's amazing.
it was fun.
So your dad is like a big cheerleader for both you guys.
Yeah, he's probably one of our biggest cheerleaders. He's awesome.
Amazing.
He's
and
sick.
So tight that you guys are like, you get to spend time together, like at this, for example.
Yeah. And I mean, we're kind of active participants at the same sport, right? Like, even though Hans and I are racing, it's the other day, for example, I got to ride some POW with my dad in the morning. And
where did you guys go?
Just out here. Like, I was planning on taking a rest day, and then there's a foot of like super light snow. So like,
blower.
You just, I punched through to the bottom, and I was like, it's fun, but I'm tired. I'm gonna like rest for the day. But for my dad, it was like easy to maneuver, and he was having a complete blast. He was psyched.
That's good that he's psyched. That's super sick.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it's good to have him aboard. And got to get him out riding more, you know?
Yeah, of course. And the three of you rode together?
A little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, intermittently, and a little bit through the last few days. I think we'll probably take some like decompression turns tomorrow.
Yeah. I definitely, it's fewer and further between that I get to ride with my kids, and I fucking love it, you know? And you guys are at that age where it's like empty nest syndrome, like,
totally
out of the house.
I think
but I guess you guys were probably gone pretty early with how much.
Yeah. I mean, I moved out when I was 14. So.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
I moved out.
Yeah, I moved out.
So where?
From Vermont to Utah, and then the school I went to was in the summertime.
Yeah.
And
did you have like a caregiver out there?
I had a like a snowboard academy kind of caregiver that I was with for the first year, and Hans was with me for the first year. He was 16, I was 14,
Jesus.
And then and my. For 1 or 2 years in high school, I just like lived with some friends that were in college in Salt Lake, and that was rowdy. And
no shit, that would be so rowdy.
Yeah.
At 14 and 15?
I was 16 when I was renting a room in Salt Lake. Yeah, no license, burning the candle at both ends, just
my God.
Turning into a young adult, making bad decisions. It was a wild time.
That would
formative
have been a blast.
time.
yeah, that would have been a blast.
Yeah,
unfriggin' believable.
But anyways, we've been out for a little while, so I think our dad Carl's super psyched when we can all get together. And I'm psyched too. So
that's dope.
Yeah.
Okay, so the before Natural Selection Tour, the Free Ride World Tour.
Yeah.
What was the kind of reputation of that when you joined it? Was there like a bunch of heads like there is now, or was it kind of just getting established?
Yeah.
It was in the middle of times. It had been done for a while.
Yeah, it had been going on for a while. And then, let's see. I think I definitely caught the contest bug again.
Yeah.
With the bank slaloms. So like, I was kind of placing and doing good at the Dirksen Derby, and then I won the Beggar Bank Slalom switching regular in 2017, and
so sick.
Then going into 2020, I was just finishing my mechanical engineering degree at the U, and I had an internship that I really hated and was miserable at, but I had always told myself the story that once I graduated college, I would move on from snowboarding because I was a little burnt out, and I was just like, I was at a weird crossroads, and then I just sent an email to the Free Ride World Tour to see if I could get a spot just for one of the events, because I thought my kind of riding could do well, and I didn't really have the like film project drive or interest that I'd had previous years, because it had been 6 years of the same thing. And they gave me a wild card spot for the whole tour going into 2020, and I ended up winning it that year, which was crazy.
Was that the year that Travis, he dabbled, didn't he? He did 2 events?
Travis had done it the year before.
It was the year before.
And then the year I did it, it was I think it was still a good lineup. It was myself, Elias Elhart, Gigi Ruff did some stops.
Oh, wow.
Victor De La Rue was doing it.
Yep.
At the time, Sammy Lubke was still a super competitive rider in it.
Rad.
And there's a cluster of people that were putting up.
That's legitimate names right there.
Yeah.
I just remember the year that Travis went in. It was kind of like he came over to just sort of be like, okay, come on, we could do this way better. Like I can kick ass on this. I could probably come in and just sweep it. And he rode differently than what was going on, like more aggressively.
Yeah. More aggressively. Way more.
Like, and I wasn't, like I said, I don't follow competitive snowboarding, but somehow I saw that, like that Hakuba one, and I was like, oh shit, if Travis is going to do this, like this thing's going to turn into something crazy.
Yeah.
And then it was, 2 years later that, because natural selection had been going for a long time. At first it was just like there
was the one-off
Jackson
events.
thing.
Yeah, and then of the new natural selection tour, it was 22 or 2021. No, 2021.
Yeah,
was the first one in Jackson.
Yeah. So you go from Freeride World Tour. Did you do that first one?
Yeah, in Jackson. And
how did you do in that one?
The first couple of years with natural selection, I had a pretty touch and go relationship. What happened 2 times was that the first year in 2021, the first bracket I had was me and Pat Moore, and I put down some good runs that would have overall put me in like 4th place or something, but Pat had the best score of the day, so I lost out in the bracket. So we both rode really hard, and he just rode straight up the best.
It happens,
you know.
Right,
and then,
right.
So I didn't move on, and I actually went back to the tour that year, and then the tour went okay. It didn't go great, you know. I didn't win it again, so it went okay. Which is where the bar is set, unfortunately for me. That's how it works. You know, where I'm like, well, bar set. There's a contest, and I want to win, so that's where the bar's set. I don't know what to tell you. If I didn't want to win, I wouldn't be competing. I would be riding POW with my homies. So.
Right, exactly.
I'm just gonna go out and say it. I'm doing the contest because I want to win it.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Right,
to want to win a contest.
If you're doing it, it's a good place to start. So, anyways, then I didn't get an invite for the next year because they wanted to cycle in more athletes. And then in 2023, I had a duels up in British Columbia, or Whistler, with Ben Ferguson. And similar kind of thing happened. Like, we both threw down, I think, I would argue, out of all the duels, it was one of the more competitive, pretty performance riding contests, and Ben just kind of did a little bit better, and
that was
able
one
to
of the
move
first on. That was the first year they did
year of duels,
and yours was one of the first ones that they aired.
It
was sick.
I
remember being like, oh, this format's
pretty
gnarly.
aggressive.
But then the format of those duels, there was a bunch of different ones. Like there was some built features in one of the duels where I was like,
there was they were just trying to figure it out. So there's growing pains on all ends, which is totally understandable.
But I would agree with you with that. Yeah, and your duels was a crazy one where it's like, oh man, both of these guys should be in. Yeah,
and that's just how those fucking contests work too, dude. Because then fast forward to the next year, I got a spot to do duels again, and it was with my really good buddy Victor Taviet, and just kind of at that point, I think it was maybe a bit more distinct who would be advancing, and at that time I was like, I will not ride my best and still get beat a 3rd time. Like, if that had happened, then I would have been like, maybe I'm not good enough. Right. I feel like I've ridden pretty, good for me every time, and I've never won, so maybe I'm not good enough. And then, last year was super cool. Was able to go to Revelstoke. And then those 2 days, they're in the contest back-to-back both days, and it was kind of crazy. You know, I had Mikkel Bang was my first
Wow.
competitor on the first day.
Yeah.
And to beat him was kind of mind-blowing for myself in a way. It maybe confidence at this point. But in the moment, I wasn't really I wasn't going to be hung up or bummed if I lost to Mikkel.
That makes sense.
You know, the guy just like, he's so good. Everyone's so good.
Everyone's
but like,
so good, yeah.
Maybe some people have been more consistent and ended up on the podium more than others, and Mikkel's kind of one of those guys.
Well, Mikkel comes from such a competitive background as well, right? Like he was like just a little kid, like crushing against like legends.
Norwegian powerhouse. Yeah.
Unbelievable
Monster.
guy. And big now. Yeah. And his big style is fucking sick.
Yeah, so solid.
Yeah.
And so
that must have felt good to win that.
That was pretty cool. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
And because at that point I had, again, always kind of ridden my best, and as long as the other rider also rode their best, I would lose. You know, that was the pattern. That was the pattern I was used to. So I advanced, and then the next morning we do finals, and the next couple of brackets are pretty crazy. It was me straight into Jared Elston, you know, Big Air Jared, and that was no joke. He put down a pretty savage run, and you know, I think people always debate the judging.
Yep.
And I think like that one could have gone either way. You know, I feel like I rode to get into the nitty gritty of it. Like he put down a big, loud, solid run. And then I kind of took the switch riding approach.
That was
and
sick.
Doubled down on that. And I think just that the nuance maybe involved with judging, and just like you compare apples to apples and get down to the nitty gritty of like, well, who else can do that? And the list gets way shorter when you compare one run to the other.
Yep.
Then I had Travis Rice, and I was like, well, I got nothing to lose here, and just kind of went all in again. And I don't know if Travis had already put down the best run, what would become the best run of the day. He'd already done it to advance to the second round.
With Dustin, yeah.
With
was that the one?
No, Torgeir Bergerum. He did like a double backflip first try. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, man, I like just felt like I didn't really have much to lose at that point. I was just like, whatever. Like, what's the craziest shit I can think of doing right now? And my run panned out well. I think Travis also put down some good runs, but just turned out that I like was able to advance with that one. And then I was just like, oh,
how does that feel?
Shit.
Okay, so you've beaten Mikkel.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I was like, I'm beating Mikkel Bang,
hell?
and then I'm beating Jared, and then I'm beating Travis Rice, and I'm like, wow, I am tired. There's some like mental fatigue, you know, it's pretty fatiguing. You're like going to war. In my mind, I think maybe it's easier for some people. For me, it's kind of intense, you know, and like,
dude, it's intense to watch.
Yeah. So like, it's not easy for me, you know, and going into finals with Mikey Cicerelli, I feel like it was the funniest thing. I remember getting in, because I was so locked in with going against Travis. I saw Sage before going up, and it's a smaller crew because we had to heli everybody out. So there's 8 of us in the backcountry. And Sage, he's a good friend of mine and a pretty confident, like, jockey personality. He's an athlete, right? And he comes up to me. He's like, dude, don't even fucking look at him. And I was like, hell yeah, fuck this guy. I'm not even going to look at him. Typically I'm like a nicer guy, right?
Yeah,
it's like not
course.
My thing, but I was like, all right, I am gonna be a son of a bitch for 15 minutes. That's all I need. And turned it on and like got the job done, right?
That's unbelievable.
And I remember getting in the heli with Mikey Cicerelli.
Yep.
And I fumbled to put on my buckle.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was just like, it's gone. This is what I thought. And that for like a split second, I was like, I lost whatever. I was like, this is the sign or something.
Wow.
Where I was like, I'm out of it, or like out of the like, just because I was like fumbling with my buckle and a little flustered or something. And then I was just like, with Mikey going in, I was like kind of content with second. And again, hindsight's 2020, but at that point of going against through duels, through Mikkel, Jared, Travis, at that point, like, I'm curious to rewatch it and see. I had to put up a solid score every single time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it was just like, just not an easy road to get there. And eventually you end up in second. I'm like, well, I'm getting second no matter what. I just like got a little more maybe complacent, or like just didn't have kill mode as turned on as a.
Usually the person who wins has kill mode, right? Like that's just the way it is.
And I just kind of like needed that little more like angst or something, or someone up top, or it was interesting thinking about it. I was like, it makes sense why people have coaches, you know. I was like, it would have been pretty helpful if someone was just like, Nils, do the switchback 7, like execute, and I'd be like, yes sir, right away. But in the moment I was like, I just didn't like, I need to make sure I put down a run now because I do have something to lose, and I did that, and Mikey fell, and then my second run I was like, just stick to the plan. Don't like, you need to be kind of disciplined, you know. You need to like, you got to show up and put down, but you also need to be pretty disciplined. And maybe that's like a fucking dorky way to put it, but that's my approach, and that's like how I go about it.
No, that's dope. That's dope. Natasha Zurich talked about having a mental coach, like just for competing, like, and that helped her a lot because you get in your head, like you just said, like you miss your belt buckle. That's a nothing. That has nothing to do with your run. No. But if it gets inside your head and you're like, okay, well, there goes I don't have the hot hand anymore, or whatever they say in basketball, you know, like, and like you say, you're like, second's pretty damn good.
I know.
Feeling a bit tired.
And that's like the last thing I should have been thinking. And
no,
the last,
you should be thinking like, holy fuck, when's the next time I'm going to be here? Yeah. After destroying Travis Rice and after like making it here, the run of the contest. This could be the story of the whole year. My life. Yeah. Yeah. This could be the one. Like, right.
So yeah, it's been nice. I've had a year to think about it. Yeah, but it is interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure other sports I think have that camaraderie, but a lot of us are like homies and friends and close. And then it's like sometimes it's tough to like click into competitive mode and then have to like pop back out and be a homie. And I think I've gotten better with it as I've aged and time goes, and I think I'll continue. I think I'm getting better at it. Yeah. Which is cool because typically I was like the bubbly, jokey guy, and then now I'm like kind of have had a taste of like fuck you energy and what that does. Yeah. And I don't like to operate like that all the time, but if you're able to change your mind, you can do whatever you want with your head, right? Yeah. You can be happy. You can have a bad day. You can have a good day. Like, and how you decide to see things and use your brain, like lock in. It's like you do have quite a bit of control, and I would say I've gotten better at being able to choose when I want to be the son of a bitch, and like when I want to turn it off. Yeah. Well, as a younger brother, you've got that fire. Probably, I'm just guessing. Middle child syndrome of that. Yeah, like chasing the brother, like I'm gonna get him no matter what. Yeah. Yeah. Which didn't work today. It didn't work today. No. He beat you by 0.001. Yeah. That's insane. What is fun is, I would say, at this point, you know, there's a couple of, everybody has a reputation and a personality at these events, and there's always a lot of banter going on, and like, especially having won it in the past, you know, that kind of puts you in this like pot of people that people are like, oh, Nils looked fast and stuff like that. And, yes. Even if I wasn't, right? And I think what's pretty funny and cool with Hans is that I have actually never beat him at the bank slalom. So and the year that you won, he wasn't there. Yeah. And we've done it at least 4 times together. That's incredible. And I've never beat him. That's incredible. He won the switch race one year, and I got second in the switch race that year. That was 2019. In 2019, I got 10th. He got 6th. And then the last time I did it, I got 11th, and he wasn't there. And then this year I got 5th, he got 4th. So rad. That's so rad. It was pretty cool. But back to back, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's what are really the odds of that? And not much. And when you think about the difference, like that's a long course. Yeah.
And that the difference, you guys went the same speed.
Everybody in the world, these two fucking kids who are brothers are like the two. They're like, different boards, different like body builds, like everything,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's not like you're identical twins and you did the same thing. No, I mean, also they didn't even have the recording equipment, like the precision to tell you guys apart, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it was. So you got the same time.
Yeah,
exactly the same time, which is insane.
Pretty crazy.
But Terrier told me that he never beat Craig, and that was
interesting.
He just never beat him.
Yeah.
And Terrier has an older brother as well, so he was also that kind of chasing. It seems to be like if you do go through the list of super pro snowboarders, that there's a high percentage of younger siblings, that they were a younger sibling. Just because you're forced to operate at a higher level younger.
Yeah.
You just
interesting. Yeah. I guess that is interesting. I haven't thought about it that way. Yeah.
And you've got a little bit more motivation, whereas the older brother's a little bit more chill. Like
sometimes. Yeah, totally. For sure. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. It was, they canceled the event last year due to weather, so I was just grateful to come back this year. And, I'm kind of on the road the next 2 months. Kind of like the next thing in my crosshairs is natural selection.
Yeah.
So it's cool to take a little confidence from this.
Hell yeah.
It's a goddamn gift and a curse being where I am, because it's different for everyone. And I think maybe more people just don't want to accept and admit that they want to be the best or whatever. It's because it's not the coolest thing. It's a pretty aggressive thing to say, but and it kind of, I don't know, in some ways it kind of sucks where I'm like, fuck, I don't want to have to go all out right now, but this is what I want to do. I was I'm like, yes, my goal is to win the Baker Bank Slalom Switch and regular. My goal is to win natural selection. Those are the goals. That's sick. And that's where the bar is set.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's kind of a fucked up bar to set, but it's also other people are doing that too. So it's
well, it's another one of those thank you for being honest about it, because
it's it puts a lot of pressure, but I also just don't, at this point I'm like, whatever. This is where I'm at right now, and I want to try put the work in that I can to perform at those levels. And then, those are just snowboarding goals. There's plenty of goals in life that I have, and that's just I'm a fucking engineer, right? I make to-do lists and I have goals. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not that I can be creative, but I come up with to-do lists and it's fucking dorky. I don't know what to say.
You're more
sorry. It's I don't color.
Sure.
I don't know what to I look at Excel spreadsheets fuck, whatever.
So let's talk briefly about your job and then get you down to the celebration party here.
Yeah, totally.
So you took a job with Salomon that, if what it sounds like is, it's part pro snowboarder, obviously, and part engineer, designer.
Yep. Yeah. So essentially, the quick and dirty of it is I graduated with a mechanical engineer degree in 2019.
Congrats. That's a lot of work, dude. That's not an easy thing to do.
A lot of work through every off season to kind of, check that box. And the motivation there was because when I was in high school, I got dropped by all my sponsors, and I was like, I need to go to college. And I was at the time putting myself through an expensive boarding school, and I was like, it'd be a lot of investment to not go to college for. So I ended up on the college track. I went to school for something that seemed interesting and that I knew I needed to go to school to accomplish. And then anyways, last year, I'd kind of had another reality check with the outdoor sponsor I was working with, and it kind of just shocked my system going into last season that I wanted to start putting things in place to figure out, okay, in 3 to 5, snowboarding's good now, I'm 29, but by the time I'm 33 to 35, I would like to have some experience and some credibility on the back ends to get into product development and that was the goal.
That's a very practical goal.
3 to 5 years. I just need an opportunity. I just have zero experience. I've never used Microsoft like Teams, right? Like I was I know I can do good. I just haven't done anything yet.
Yep.
Anyways, 2 weeks later, product developer position gets posted for Salomon. I've known everybody at Salomon for 12 years, and I applied for it and intermittently interviewed through the winter. One of my final interviews was right before natural selection, like in my hotel room for natural selection, like a day before.
Like a Zoom call?
And I like messed up the time, so I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to do it.
Oh my
but I was
God.
like, yeah, whatever. I was, at that point I had nothing to lose, right? And a week after natural selection, I got offered the job. And it was kind of an interesting mix where I was like, oh wow, I just like pretty much hit the pinnacle of the very niche sport of competitive backcountry snowboarding, but still respected and regarded aspect of the 100%. Sport.
Yeah.
So I hit that pinnacle, and then I was like, oh shit, here's this like opportunity faced with me that starts to pull me away from that. Technically, yeah. And
that's a hard decision to make, man.
Yeah, and I don't have any kids, but I'm married and we have a house and we have a dog, and my wife has a very established career in public education in Utah, and like I have a pretty normal life, I train, I rock climb a lot, and I'm not like traveling year round. I come home and I am like the house caretaker. I got like a life. Sick. I'm kind of grown into an adult in some ways. And anyways, essentially, my wife and I were faced with the option if I said yes, that we had about 8 weeks to sell everything we own, rent out our house, book one-way flights, and get on a plane to Europe. And see what happened.
Insane.
She had never been to France before. She'd been to Portugal for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's it. No experience. Neither of us speak French. I had never worked as a traditional job before. And both of us, we just like had time. We had a lot of time to think about it because we had been talking about it all winter. And essentially, where we arrived was like, shit, we don't have kids. Like, okay, yeah, this feels a little early for my snowboarding career, and it sacrifices the career that she has worked really hard for. But what's 3 years too soon over the course of a 20-year career in snowboarding was one way I reasoned it. And she was kind of burnt out and maybe feeling like she wanted to transition with her career, and she's still pretty young. So we decided that this was it's corny to say, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Sure. And so I said yes, and we're booked tickets to France, and I
moved your whole life
straight up. Yeah, we show up, and that's a story for another time, but it has been a wild ride.
Yeah. Are you 9 to 5ing?
Yeah, 9 to 5.
Holy shit.
And I showed up on a Saturday, and I started work Monday. And I took 2 weeks off for Christmas.
Wow.
And then so it was like 7 months, 9 to 5 straight into it.
I can't even believe it.
Big learning curve, just kind of getting like thrown to the wolves.
Yep.
And
first job, really cool. Like you say,
first job. Yeah, there's just like so many things that I have learned, but I'm really glad that I am learning them now instead of trying to figure it out. I wonder
if it'll help with the snowboarding in that you like.
I think so. I mean, I've
relax. I don't know.
In some ways, I think it's helped me because I would say I have like a really stronger like feel on the pulse of the industry. It also is just like, again, it like keeps happening where I was a competitive halfpipe rider, and then I wanted to get into backcountry. Kind of did backcountry, and I got a little bored and over it, and I wanted to get into big mountain competitions, and I got into big mountain competitions, now natural selection, and a little bit of everything, and then at this point I was like, yeah, I want a job. Like
that's wild.
Like I got time. Like let's do this.
I'd go my whole life without a job if I could.
And it's cool to. I'm very grateful from Salomon and my manager and the whole team and everybody in France that's really shown just some like optimism for me, or has an optimistic view, to hire me, because it is a bit of a risk.
They got to be enamored that you're there. Like, here's this guy who's
Jeremy, David, Paul, Benoit. Thanks, guys, for putting up with my dumbass that doesn't speak any French every day. And I think once I get through a few of the curves, I do feel like, and once I understand how that game's played, everything I've wanted to be good at, I would say I've figured out how to be good at it, and I'm excited to see what I can do for snowboarding and snowboards, and hopefully just like help people enjoy snowboarding is essentially my job.
Yeah, Salomon's had some big name pros work there. Jason Ford, Emmanuel Krebs, they take it seriously.
Yeah,
obviously.
They take it seriously, and the office is legit. It's a cool place with a lot of smart, talented, creative people working super hard to carry the brand, and that's something that isn't easy, to walk the line between a profitable business that makes good product and is also relevant and cool in the eyes of snowboarders.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
That's a difficult line to balance, and I'm psyched to be a part of it. I'm psyched for the next chapter.
The Salomon riders that I've talked to all have a big sense of pride in that the boards ride so well.
The product's really good, which is a really nice starting reference point. So yeah, I don't know. Moving, I'm not sure when you'll put this out, but essentially I've been in the US 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow.
Yep.
And I have about a month and a half to go. It's just a 2-month stint in the US, a strike mission to do Baker, and I didn't win, but it still went well.
Yep.
And then go back to natural selection and hopefully film a little bit while I'm around there. And then back to France in March. Yeah.
Unreal. Well, you couldn't be a nicer dude. Thank you for very clear communication on getting together.
Yeah,
that was
totally.
Super sick.
Yeah, no, it's like you hit me up. It's been fun. I followed the show for a bit, and it's cool. I always really appreciate people that are in it for the passion, because it's
love it. Yeah,
it takes a village, and I think it's awesome folks like yourself who want to try carry the story and the energy that snowboarding has to offer, because there's a lot of value in that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's there. We see it all around us here at Baker. Snowboarding's more than just like a pastime or something. It's like there's so much energy in it. You travel the world, and you meet another snowboarder, and it's like you're enjoying something.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're getting to the level where it might not be always enjoyable like that.
There's a lot of
oh my God.
Yeah. It's
pressure
not all fun
and
it's a lot of pressure, but it's by choice. And it's what I want right now, and I've worked a long time to get to this point.
And you enjoy the competition side of it, obviously, and that's
and I think as I had said earlier, and I know we're wrapping things up, but it's I think the last couple of years have probably been the happiest I've been with snowboarding.
The most fun.
It's also maybe been some of the most fulfilling and not all the most successful years, but the most content of how it's gonna work.
That's dope.
So I think I've evolved as a competitive snowboarder, that I have a healthy relationship with competition now, and have also just evolved as a professional snowboarder, that I feel confident and have a happy relationship with being in a pro snowboarder world as well.
Nils, thank you so much, dude.
Thanks to you.
Yeah.
It's like we got to catch up.
Yeah, dude.
All the best.
All right. Have a nice decompression day tomorrow. You couldn't be up here with better conditions.
Yeah.
Bluebird and snow,
can't complain. Yeah, can't complain.
And family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick.
Thanks everyone for listening. Later.
FNRad shoutouts this week to NIls Mindnich and his brother and father, who were also at the Baker Bank Slalom. Thanks to Duncan, Amy, Gwynn, and the entire Baker crew, who have continually made the LBS a must-attend snowboarding community event for 40 years. Special thanks to listener Chris, Crispy Bacon, and his kids Hannah, Rachel, and his wife Nicole. Rad to meet you guys at the LBS. Be sure to come back next week for more FNRad snowboarding presented by FlowJoy Water and brought to you by FNRad Productions.